Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and I believe Michael Jackson is innocent. Now, I know a lot of you don't. A lot of you are like, Andy, no, what are you talking about? Michael, he... And I want you to hear me out, please. I hope you'll hear me out, because I want to talk about this because there's a new biopic being made. And I was like, great. Finally, can we get back to, the legend that is Michael, musically, everything. Like, great, let's get back in and learn about the real Michael here. But every time something like this happens, Mr. Dan Reed, the filmmaker of Leaving Neverland, which is the hit piece that took Michael Jackson down, let's be honest, he's now chiming in saying, well, the biopic better cover all the other claims. And I see this and I just get angry because, guys, I want to explain to you why this makes me angry and why I believe Michael Jackson. And I want to show you some stuff from Dan Reed and why I don't believe the people in the video. And I think it's important you get all your own information, do your own research as well before just listening to someone on YouTube. But I think it's really imperative that we have this conversation about Michael Jackson because, honestly, I don't believe he did the things they say he did. Now, do I believe Michael Jackson did some weird stuff? Yes, absolutely. Would I ever let my child have a sleepover with an adult? Never. It's never going to happen. And in fact, I don't know why we're not more angry at the parents. What's so frustrating in these situations, right? There's really two things that I feel like most people say, oh, well, that's why Michael did that. It was those sleepovers, and it was that settlement he took. And I want to break down both of those and try and give you another perspective as to why I refuse to just follow the cancel Michael Jackson mob. Sleepovers. And I've talked about this in other videos, but I'm giving you a little quicker recap here. People like Macaulay Culkin, who I think is a good person, has come forward, and others have admitted, like, that wasn't a bedroom. That was an amusement park. 2 levels and arcade games and all this crazy stuff all over the room. It was a place to, like, play and party and pass out. That's how it was conveyed to me. It wasn't a weird place where they were doing things and locking doors. I spoke to people who were in that room. I spoke to Taj Jackson, Michael's nephew. And you might say, well, he's biased, whatever. No, he's not. And I implore you, go listen to our videos that we did over in Hugging the Cactus. I'll link to that playlist at the end of this. You can find them here. There's 2 where we disputed the facts and talked about the documentary. And Taj is really just well-spoken and smart about it. And, let me ask anything. There was nothing off the table. And I asked about this, and he's like, I was there, dude. And then I saw Macaulay Culkin come out and verify it as another person who was there. So first I thought, okay, maybe it's, is it still weird? Yes. But does it mean Michael crossed a line? I got no proof of that. Now, the proof we have are these allegations, right? And let's talk about the first allegation. The first person he settled with, that kid and his parents. It was a big settlement with Jordan, $20 million. And you see that, and a lot of people are like, well, he settled because he was guilty. But I would implore you to look at it the other way too. Why would the parents settle that? I can only speak for myself. I can't be in other people's minds. But if I knew Michael Jackson did that to my son, there's no dollar in the world I would accept, except for him being incarcerated or worse. So I'm sorry, like, when I hear that, when I hear a settlement, it goes both ways. It doesn't mean he's guilty. If anything, I think the parent, like, dude, what? You took a payout? I know it's a lot of, it's a lot of money. That's a lot of motive. At the same time, I couldn't accept 20 million even. I couldn't know that was happening to other kids. I couldn't do it. So that's where that case, that settlement, that's not like there it is. That's what did it. That's what made it happen. Makes everyone think it. No, you got that. You got the bedrooms. So the last thing that really sort of gets people to think he's guilty is that documentary, Leaving Neverland, which honestly I think is a hit piece. It is not a fair documentary at all. The filmmaker, Dan Reed, who was behind that documentary, here he is with the 2 liars. They're liars. They're perjurers. They perjured themselves in a court of law during the previous case. And in doing so, if they're telling the truth, would have put so many other people in jeopardy that it's unthinkable just what they would have done. And so now, after Michael's death, now they see the light. when they can't be sued for defamation. Now they see the light. Okay. Convenient, very convenient. But take that aside. The most glaring thing about Leaving Neverland that you got to remember, because Dan Reed, the filmmaker, which we're going to talk more about what he's working on now, etc. Dan Reed, the filmmaker, said he believes the two men unequivocally. These are allegations. You are a filmmaker, you're a journalist. You chose to just believe the story instead of look into them more deeply and figure out, oh, what's the other side of this? You can't even get Michael Jackson on tape, so you can't ask him, the man they're accusing. But you did no other heavy lifting to try and figure out, all right, well, what is their story? What is the other side of this story? You came in to take down Michael. You got Oprah attached. You got clout. You got accolades. Now you are riding that train as long as you can. But I ask you, Dan Reed, and I ask you, audience, if you are doing a documentary about two men who are going to, reveal such raw and extreme things, and they're there expressing, sharing that story, getting emotional, and they're telling you this just awful stuff. Can you imagine the director going, hey, I want to redo that. We need to do that again better. Because that's what happened. Dan Reed was caught reshooting key elements of that documentary and those testimonies. They got caught because the rings went off and the hair changed a bit, and he tried to shoot it as if you wouldn't notice, but he went and reshot things with these men. I'm sorry, as a production guy, I would never do that. As a documentarian who's trying to tell the truth and such raw emotion and stories, to go and ask these people who are telling such raw truth to reenact it and say it differently, dude, that is the hugest red flag I could have ever heard in my life. And that's just the reality of that documentary. Not only that, they got the stories wrong. They were talking about a train room, and then the Michael Jackson truthers, as Dan Reed tries to label them, to just, again, divisive. They're crazy. No, the people who did the homework and the actual research discovered, well, there was no train room. There were so many things that just didn't line up. So at the end of the day, you got the settlement, which to me isn't the nail in the coffin. Because I get just as angry at the parents. And Michael himself, according to Taj, was so upset at that settlement. And that's why, again, he wanted to make sure they didn't settle the second time. And during the second time, what happened? What happened that second time? Oh, right. He was acquitted of all charges. FBI was on it like everything. He was completely vulnerable. And they couldn't get him. Acquitted. Not settled, acquitted. And it was thanks to these two who gave testimony that everyone was like, man, that testimony was harrowing. So what are they, actors? So they can lie then to the jury, but now they can't? So now I'm supposed to believe them now? I don't understand it. How on earth can someone, knowing this information, knowing they're liars, knowing they've perjured themselves, knowing they reshot things and reacted it, how can you say this documentary is fair? You can't. It's an allegation, and Dan Reed chose to take a stance on said allegation instead of doing his job as a filmmaker. And it bothers me. And so, yeah, that got me even more riled up to say, you know what? I got to stop being afraid to say Michael Jackson is innocent. Because you know what? When you go and do the homework, more and more signs point to this is a media job of people trying to get clout, trying to get money. And the sad reality is, my God, think about it for a second. Maybe you're like, Andy, I still don't believe it. What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? That is just the man is no longer with us, and now we're falsely that's how Hollywood's gonna keep trying to remember, because Dan Reed needs to keep having some cred. It sickens me, guys. It sickens me. So look, these are allegations. You can believe what you want. You can believe what you want. At the end of the day, he's not charged with a crime. He's not here to defend himself. He has a family that needs to be supported, and he's a genius. He's a musical genius. We should not be afraid to listen to Michael Jackson. The fact that The Simpsons pulled that Happy Birthday Lisa episode, it breaks my heart. I love this. What are they doing? One of my idols, Weird Al Yankovic, who Michael Jackson made his career. I worship Al. He literally, I can't even begin to explain how much Al's music and comedy affected my entire everything. And my kids love Al because I raised them on the songs and they love him. And we went to see him live and he wouldn't do the Michael Jackson songs. I have such a connection with my son, Sawyer, who I love dearly, to eat it. My son just will not eat things at all. Anyway, it's bad, but I don't want to get distracted. I was so excited to see Al live and see Eat It, and he couldn't play Eat It because we're not allowed to listen to Eat It anymore, I guess, either. Guilty by association, as Janet Jackson said in the recent documentary. It is sad. His whole legacy tarnished and tarred and feathered for what? For two people who previously lied, but now I'm supposed to believe them? Who are reshooting their testimony? Who are telling stories that aren't even accurate? Guys, do your homework yourself. Go look it up. I'll put those videos I made with Taj hugging the cactus at the end. Now, but I want to get back to this story. So they're making a biopic, same producers behind Bohemian Rhapsody, and the Michael Jackson estate. It's called Michael. And it was great to see a lot of real publications like putting this out there. Like, oh, cool, there's a Michael Jackson biopic. And people seem to be like, cool. All right, we're out. But no, Dan Reed had to get in the news cycle. And my God, Daily Beast, you guys are the most biased piece of crap ever. It's just this hit piece, even this article, just how much, he's guilty. The hope is that any biopic of mine will have the integrity and examine, at the very least, his appetite for nocturnal. I can't even say this. My God. The question of whether the bio will give an unbiased look at Jackson's well-documented and strangely close relationship is a valid concern. But when I see this, and Dan Reed, how dare you? You are trying to claim you weren't biased? Like, I just can't even with this man. You heard an allegation and you believed it unequivocally. You've been quoted as that. The Jackson estate has used that in the lawsuits against you. You heard an allegation and you unequivocally was like, I believe it. And then you've done nothing but continue to defend it, and not do your job and see if it's actually true. You don't. There's like a little text that sort of explains that they perjured themselves. They never really get into anyway. But what's really shocking to me is like he wants to make a sequel. The film I'm really interested in doing is The Trial of Michael, the case of Jordan, who got paid off to $20 million. But in order to tell those stories at that level, I'd like to tell them the central characters of the families would have to come forward. I'm really not sure that's going to happen. Why? Because maybe they didn't tell the truth. Maybe because they did it for the money. But would you even be able to figure that out? Because you're already going in with the intent of this. Expose even more horrifying claims. Like, literally, the dude hasn't even interviewed the family. And he's already like, whoa, yeah, we're going to expose even more. It's even more horrific. And I haven't even interviewed them yet. Like, how can you guys not see that this man is a clout chaser? This man got awards thanks to Oprah. So much in this documentary took him to another level. He's now, I think, making a video about a documentary about the insurrection, of course, because now this was such a big, wow, you exposed it. But the reality is like, no, dude. And he's also stuck in subpoena land thanks to the estate, and bravo to them. There's a real massive lawsuit happening against HBO because they signed a contract ages ago because of a concert that they did exclusively that HBO, like, I might be a little wrong, so apologies, but basically it's like, you can't disparage Michael. And the contract doesn't have a date. And so it's like, we're in a business relationship, so you can't make content to disparage Michael. And so now fast forward, they made content to disparage Michael. And they're like, well, no, that was just a one-off. And they're like, and it's a legit case. It's still up there. HBO could have to pay through the nose. And that would be pretty amazing. And we'll see what happens with that case. But because of that case, they've drowned him in subpoenas and everything else. And good for them. Let's get to the truth, Dan. You shouldn't be afraid to share the truth. But no, Dan Reed doesn't want to share the truth. I'm an artist. You shouldn't have to check any of my work or my footage or see if it was coerced in any way. No. Yeah, leave my art alone. Okay. If you are such a truther yourself, why don't you share the truth, Dan? What are you hiding? What are you hiding? So anyway, that legal wrangle is going for a long time. We'll see what happens. But he wants to shoot the trial. He wants to shoot this trial. Him fighting the estate. This man will string this out as long as he can because it's giving him relevancy. He's getting people to rally for him. Yeah, take Michael down, yada yada. And that's just what's so scary about all this, and why I wanted to do another video to sort of warn you. It's so nice when we see, for me at least, finally like positive Michael news. Yeah, okay, let's move on. The dude's no longer with us. The dude wasn't charged with a crime. He was acquitted of the crimes. Now, you can still choose not to support Michael, but leave us alone if we want to support Michael, because you don't have any evidence to say he's done the things he's done. And the only thing people are falling on are these two accusers, which, as I feel like I've said as clearly as I can, I just don't believe them. They are not credible witnesses. They have lied under oath. Therefore, I can't believe anything they say in the future. And I've talked about even more in depth about, especially this guy. Oh my God. Wade Robinson, what a sleazebag. We talked a lot in depth about a lot more details that I think will also give you more insight in this. If you saw that documentary and you thought, oh my God, I implore you, go over to Hugging the Cactus, watch our interview, and at least hear the other side out and make your own decision. At the end of the day, that's what we can do. We make our own decisions. Maybe I didn't sway you. I wasn't really trying to sway you, but at least I hope I can get you, if you thought one way, to look at the other evidence at least to see if that might change your mind or put you in a new perspective. Because that's what I try to do here. And I love when you guys help me do that as well, because we're not always right. Sometimes we got to do more homework. But there you go. I hope this biopic gets to go through the way the family wants it to go through. And I hope it can show the legend that is Michael and still address some of the complicated parts of Michael. There's a lot of complicated parts to Michael's legacy. Let's not lie. I want to see it. I'd be very curious, and I want to hear the music again. Would be a fantastic movie. I'm excited to see it. What do you think? Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts. I'm sure this video is going to get pulled down by the algorithm, so help me out if you can. Leave a comment, smash the like button, help it all, get it out there. And thank you guys for hearing me out today. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll be live later today, always every afternoon here on Popcorn Planet.